So I've had this car for a few years now. It's my 2014 Subaru BRZ Limited, so it's the fancy one with the heated seats and the suede. But right now it's built for D-Street touring and the SCCA autocross. Basically, street touring keeps it super simple. It's wheels, tires, suspension, intake, header, tune. Anything else bumps you up a class. So my car has a white line front sway bar, white line rear control arms, some camber bolts in the front, EBC yellow brakes, TRD intake, JDL unequal length header and overpipe, and then my boy Zach down in Counter Space Garage in SoCal tunes it. Highly recommend Counter Space Garage, by the way. I think they make, especially Zach, makes like the spiciest, fastest tunes. He's great to talk to. Super, super big wealth of knowledge on that guy. So anyway, so there's probably a bunch of stuff I'm forgetting. I know on the interior there's a Schroth Rally 3 ASM harness, but that's literally it on the interior. Completely bone stock otherwise. You know, there's bushings, subframe bushings, diff bushings, engine mounts, trans mounts, stuff like that. But really that's just to make the car feel a little better, get it more connected to the ground. Nothing too crazy. Now we all know BRZs are great driver's cars. They rip corners, rip through canyons, but there's one major flaw. And that major flaw is what's right there. With this 2-liter, only making 197 horsepower and like 150 foot-pounds of torque, these things are slow. So, there's a few ways we can fix that. So option number one is to keep the FA20 and do a forced induction setup. Now there's two options you can go with that, and that's a supercharger or a turbocharger. They both kind of have their benefits, they both have their drawbacks. I think the main benefit is simplicity. You know, you got to keep your stock engine, all your stock running gear. The turbo or supercharger more or less just bolts on, and then you need to do some very simple kind of supporting mods, pretty much just injectors at that point, and an oil cooler. And then you're pretty much set. You know, it's nothing too crazy. The drawbacks, though, I think are kind of outweighing the benefits, at least for what I use the car for. So the main drawback is obviously the FA20 itself. You know, these engines have connecting rods that are made out of toothpicks or maybe a number 2 pencil if you're lucky. And the way I beat the piss out of this car, I really just didn't want to deal with grenading FA20s. And they're not cheap. You know, an FA20, because they're in such high demand, because everybody blows them up, you know, they're anywhere from $3,500 to $5,000 depending on what year you get. So it's not really financially supportable on my end to spend $6,000 on a forced induction setup and then to just have those problems like continually. And I'm not saying, oh well, you know, it's not like every one of them blows up when they have forced induction. Eventually it's going to happen. We all know it. Everybody knows it. You know, I didn't want to deal with the forced induction problems, even though I think it's a great solution. I didn't want to deal with racing a forced induction car because you get a lot of heat soak, you lose power. At the end of the day, it wasn't right for me. So then there's option number 2, and that's to get rid of the FA20. Now there's a few different kits out there for a couple different engines. Obviously, a super popular one is K-Swap. You can put a K24 in this thing, make some decent NA power, unless you do a high compression engine build, which for me, I didn't really want to deal with. You know, I'm in Montana and we only have 91 octane. And when you do that high compression, you really need to be running something higher than that. You know, you could run E, you could run 93, whatever. We don't have it here. So that kind of ruled out a high compression build. Then I kind of thought about a forced induction K-Swap. But once again, kind of comes back to what we just talked about. So the K-Swap is out of the question. There is some more custom options you could do. You know, there's JZ swaps. You could do a 2GR swap. You could do a J37 swap now. I think Vorschlag is developing a kit for that. But, you know, none of those really kind of interested me. The 2GR was close. I did think about a 2GR, but the main issue I have with the 2GR is that they're really tall, like really, really tall engines. And the BRZ is not a very tall car. I didn't think it would necessarily fit under the hood and over the crossmember. So that kind of ruled out all of those engine swaps. So what do? Deal with it? Deal with getting gapped by Camrys? No, I'm not going to do that. There's a third option, and this one's the nuclear option. I'm sure most of you guessed it by this point. This is an L92. This engine can be found in a 2010 era Chevy GM product. You know, this one came out of an Escalade. Unknown mileage, but it actually looked pretty clean when I tore it apart. This one in particular, this L92, made 400 horsepower and 400 foot-pounds of torque. All that bald eagle screaming, fire-breathing, hog-cranking torque horsepower you could ever need. So, why is it torn down? There's two major issues with an L92 and why the LS3 is so much more expensive. First off, major difference is this has slightly lower compression than an LS3. I think it's like 0.2 to 1 difference. It's really nothing crazy. The L92 also comes with variable valve timing on the cam right here, and also displacement on demand, otherwise known as GM's kryptonite, at least in this generation. So what that allowed GM to do is control valve timing and also deactivate cylinders whenever the heck they wanted. It failed all the time. It caused these motors to grenade themselves, and this one's a survivor. So the simple solution to that is to just put an LS3 cam in it. Just put a big old thumping ground shaking cam, delete all that VVT stuff. I just run an LS2 timing cover and then put LS7 lifters in it. And then we have a reliable 450 to 500 crank horsepower. I know what you're saying. That's a lot to put through a stock BRZ transmission. And I agree. That's why I also got this. This is a Tremec T56 Magnum F. I got it from my buddy Josh, and it should be good for about 700 horsepower, about 700 foot-pounds of torque. I don't really think horsepower matters with these transmissions. Excuse me. They're never going to blow up. People run thousands of horsepower through these and drag race them, and they're fine. So I got this from my buddy Josh, absolute homie, hooked me up with a killer deal. And he's also been helping me out like crazy on this project. So if you're watching, Josh, thanks, buddy. 450 is a lot of horsepower for any car. You know, everyone's so blown out these days with how much power these, cars on the internet have. Like, oh, your Supra doesn't have 1,000 horsepower, you must be a... Shut up, bro. Like, a GT3 RS is not the best car in the world. It's okay. You can live life outside of the internet. But 450 horsepower is a lot for a BRZ. A lot of people have called me a moron, so comment down below if you think I'm a moron. But I think it's going to be perfect. I think for a fun, cool car that I can rip on the street, that I can rip at autocross, that'll rip on a road course, I think this is my best option. And that comes down to all the reasons that we just discussed. There's a ton of reasons that led me to this point, most of them involving beer and not being good decisions. But here we are. So, to kind of give you a current state of where we're at, I have the engine, I have the transmission, I have the car, and tomorrow, my buddy Joe's coming over, and we're ripping the drivetrain out of it. So that little drive we took earlier was the last drive that I'll ever take in this BRZ with an FA20. It's sad, that car has brought me a lot of joy. It's brought me a lot of wins, a lot of PAX overalls, 2 championships here in Montana. I've made tons of friends because of this car. I've, made a lot of friends just because of racing. So it's tough to kind of take a perfectly good running car and make it exactly not that. But fuck it, right? You only live once. All right, you guys are mobile now. So we got a lot of work to do. These are my cylinder heads. They are the square port heads that come on this Gen 4 LS. I've already hot tanked them, cleaned them, got the surfaces as good as I can get them. You know, I don't have a machine shop. It's just me here in my little garage. Valves are lapped. Those things are dialed in and ready to go. Here, we've got the rockers. I already have a CHE trunnion upgrade kit. Thanks, Mom. And some push rods. Hope they're the right length. Oil pump, gonna stay stock. VVT cam, absolutely going in the garbage, along with the VVT cam gear and the DoD lifters. I've got kind of a small little pile of parts right here. Shout out Rock Auto. And yeah, tomorrow, that engine's coming out. So yeah, that's my big dumb project. Should be a super fun winter. I'm excited to get going on it. Excited for tomorrow when that FA20 ceases to exist. Alrighty, morning everyone. Today is the big day. We're taking the FA20 out of my BRZ. The fellas are inbound. They're bringing food, maybe some coffee, which is much needed right now. But Bobcats are playing today. Go Cats. Yeah, let's get today started off. We'll do a little bit of car Jenga. I'm gonna get my truck out of the way. Gotta get this thing into its final resting place and jacked up. And then, yeah, we're gonna get started. It might look like it's in the same spot. Trust me, it probably is. Shout out Mitch, if you're watching. All right, let's get this thing up in the air. I think that'll be a fine place to leave it for the next 6 months, so should be dialed. Pitter patter. Alrighty. First things first. Let's get the fluids out of this thing, huh? Don't want it leaking all over the place.
Coolants out of the car, rods out of my pants.
Fluids are out. We're gonna pull some other stuff off. All right, next step. Get this dope ass header off.
This motherfucker don't know what he's doing.
Super flattering angle. Yeah, I'm mechanic.
I hate my wife.
I swear I'm gonna have to like bleep out most of these videos. So. All right, headers are out. My friends have spawned in. Let's go up this little rig. Such a cute little car. All right. Now that this car no longer runs or drives, we've taken a perfectly good car and made it not that, which was exactly the goal. So next steps, we're going to pull out the transmission, which means we got to drop the exhaust, get the drive shaft out, get a bunch of this honky mess out of the way. This transmission's sold. It's going to Kentucky. So I got to get that out tomorrow. Yeah, keep grinding. Enjoy the time lapse. So as soon as I press start, you're okay. So got the exhaust, drive shaft. Ignore all the other ones. I got a ton of exhaust. But everything's ready to come out. Transmission's ready. All we got to do is some interior stuff. Take out your old shift, and then do the trans mount bracket. And I'm pretty much ready to go. This it's a pretty quick process, honestly. It's a Subaru and Toyota. But yeah, we're hungry. It's lunchtime. Gonna go rip some chipper, and then we'll get this thing wrapped up. All right, so now we're in my favorite place in the world, underneath the car. There's a couple things we got to do under here. As you can see, we've already gotten the drive shaft and exhaust out, so we're dialed there. This is the center support right here for the drive shaft. Got a couple bolts up here we need to do. We got this, and then that pretty much should be it. Besides these guys, obviously, which are the trans mount. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then these two, and the whole mount comes off. I think that should be it. We're gonna find out pretty quick if it ain't it, but we'll get there when we get there. So, all right, you guys are gonna get some excellent footage.
Footy.
That went right into my mouth.
Best spot.
Oh, God. Things I fucking do for this stupid shit. Okay, mounts off. Actually, I need to go a little bit lower here. Whoa, settle down. Okay, I'm pushing. If you want to lift. Ow. Damn jack.
I got it. Get your ass in here.
Okay. All right, now we're just gonna lift this thing clean out. Get the muscles out. You can get behind it. I can get up on top of it here. Okay, I got the front. Yeah. Oh. There we go. One BRZ transmission.
Still think my Get Track and Beamer weighed less.
Oh, probably. So here's what we were taking off under the car. Definitely don't need to take that off. You just need to get the boot around your detent here. So I'm gonna bolt that back together because that was a dumb move. Other than that, pretty simple. All right. I think that just about does it. Crazy long weekend. I'm tired. Engine and transmission are out of the car. Transmission sold. Engine is still available. If anyone wants a perfectly running BRZ tuned by Zach, counter space. I'll even throw in the EcuTech stuff for the right price. So hit me up. A little bit more work than we expected. Always is. You know, Subarus are pretty simple, but without a lift and just being in the garage. It takes a little while longer. You know, you got to be underneath the car, straining, hurting, swearing. But we got it done. So what's next? What's next in this huge project? Well, we got to get the engine done. So the L92 still needs a couple things. It needs a camshaft VVT and DOD delete kit. Hopefully I should be ordering this week. Once that transmission sells, and also sold a couple other things, clutch and engine mounts. But once that's gone, I can order that. The engine will get buttoned up and completed. And then it's time to start working on the BRZ itself again. So to fit a T56 Magnum F, we need to remove the transmission tunnel brace and then potentially hammer the firewall a little bit. We'll kind of see what that looks like once the engine is together and once we kind of, you know, have them bolted up and we can pull it in and out of the engine bay a couple times and see what we're looking at. Also in the car, I've got to do a couple things. I've got to pull the AC lines out because we won't be needing those. I got to pull the condenser out. Got to clean up the firewall. Also got to do a clutch master cylinder relocation kit from Sickie. So that just moves the clutch master over a little bit to the right so it can clear the valve covers of the LS. Obviously, strip as much back as I don't need. Start cleaning things up in there. You know, I want it to look nice. I'm going to do all this work to have it kind of cobbled together. But overall, very productive weekend. It's about this point where I start getting scared. You know, I wasn't too scared when I started this project, but now that this thing can no longer move under its own power, and it's just in the garage here, you know, things start to get a little more real. And I'll probably think about it quite a lot more before I'm okay with that, but it's all right. You know, it's one of those things where you don't want to lose motivation. You want to keep going. You know, you got to think about the end product of what you're building. And the fact that this car means so much to me, I don't think I'm going to lose motivation. I think we're going to see this one through. So anyway, thanks for watching. Stay tuned. You know, we got a ton more to do on this, and I'm going to keep filming as much as possible. It's pretty funny to talk to a camera. I never had to do it before. And it's funny kind of having my friends over and dealing with them on camera. It's a good time. But big shout out to Joe for helping me. You probably saw him in the videos. He's always been a huge help, and just a big help overall. You know, getting all this done. He's buying some parts from me too, so all that money, you know, goes towards this build, and his time too. His time's super helpful. Also, thanks to Cameron, who was here yesterday, farting around for a bit. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got. stay tuned. We got a ton more to do, and I'm stoked. All right, like, comment, subscribe. Hi, Mom. Lou.